Hopefully you saw the last video I did where I spent the night out in the woods in my Tentsile Una. I will scatter links around if you haven't. And maybe you found yourself wondering, what do you do if you've got a tree tent but you've got no trees to pitch it in? I have wondered the same thing myself. I actually spent a night pitched on the ground in my old flight just by way of an experiment. Turned out to be quite an unsuccessful experiment, but it's irrelevant now because Tentsile now do ground conversion kits for all of their tents. This is the one for the Una, or rather this is the primary part of the one for the Una. This is basically a footprint. It's not particularly heavy, I'm not sure, but I think it's about 700 or 800 grams. It's not particularly massive. You can see it's exactly this big. For normal camping, for car camping, it's going to be absolutely fine, no problems. For bike packing, I think this is going to push you up to and beyond the limits of the kind of space you're happy to allocate to just your tent. I could be wrong. Everyone packs differently, everyone has different priorities for what they give space to. It's not inconceivable that you would find room for this on your bike. The second part of the ground conversion kit though is this. This pole, all it does is hold the edge of the fly sheet up to give you access to the tent body, and it is a beast. I mean, it's not massively heavy, but it is very long and it is very unwieldy. I think it extends to 230 centimeters, I assume, so that it can deal with every Tentsile model, some of which are massive. I did cycle out here with it strapped to the frame of the bike, and it was all right, but it is pretty unwieldy and it's pretty messy, and I definitely wouldn't even consider it for a much longer ride. That said, I don't think it's really a problem because I don't really think you need this, to be honest. There's a few ways you could get by without it, my favourite of which we will discuss at the end of this video. Stay tuned. For now though, let's get it pitched, see what we shall see. So the actual pitching process is pretty much idiot proof, said the idiot. You just throw out the footprint, throw the tent body down on top of it. The corners of the footprint are sewn together to make these little openings. You pass the tent corners through these openings and then use the hooked bungees to attach to the loops at the corners of the tent, and then you use these loops to peg the whole thing down and pull it out tight. Once you're all pegged out, the pole goes in as normal, slides in through the sleeve, ends secure in these little cups, and you're all good. Last step is the strap at each corner of the footprint. These just come over the body, clip together and adjust in order to hold up that really deep bathtub profile that's going to keep the water and the filth out of your little clean, warm enclave. So now you start to get an idea of what it is we're dealing with. You can see the footprint is made of this quite heavy duty, plasticky sort of tarp material. I have seen tent footprints made of much lighter weight fabric than this, but to be fair, the floor of the Una as it comes out of the box is very, very lightweight. It's also not waterproof, and if you were to pitch onto the ground, I think you'd trash it in 5 minutes and get a wet bum. So this is going to give you the confidence to pitch pretty much anywhere you would choose to pitch. It's got this really deep kind of bathtub profile as well. That's going to keep out the water. You can pitch into long grass, wet moss, wherever you want. It's not going to be a problem. You'll also notice these zips down the three sides. These aren't specifically to do with the ground conversion kit. These are actually where you attach the double bubble, which is a kind of secondary room made of bug net that you hang underneath the main tent when you're doing a suspended pitch. I've got one of these. I'll be doing a video about it in the next week or so. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, like and subscribe. hit the bell, hit the button, get notified. Just try and contain yourself. It's coming soon. Back to business. So the last step before we put the fly sheet on is just a little structural one. Because the Una has no lengthways support at all, just this single cross pole, it's got no support in that direction. So if you were to put the fly on now, as you tensioned it out, it just squashes everything down and you lose all of your internal space. So we fix this by just attaching a guy to this cross pole and pegging it out to the head end. That just pulls everything tight and gives us a bit of space inside. Once you're all pegged out tidy, the last thing is just to get the fly on. Super simple, no tricks needed. All you do, throw it out over the top, peg it out to the 3 corners, just make sure that you've got a fair bit of overlap with the footprint corners. You can choose whichever side you like for your access, which is kind of cool. Whichever side you do choose, just go around to the other side, peg that out nice and tight, then go around to the head end and peg that out to the peg that's already there with the support bungee, giving yourself as much ventilation underneath as you think you need. That done, the final step is to get the beast pole in on the front. And so there you have it, the Tentsile Una pitched on the ground with nary a tree to be seen. It's not the biggest tent in the world. In fact, you probably wouldn't call it a tent, you'd probably call it a bivvy shelter. And while you won't be having any crazy parties in there, it will keep the rain off, will keep the wind off, it will keep the bugs off. And it will give you just about enough headroom to lie in there, to read a book, edit some nonsense to upload to YouTube. And if you pitch it right with the entrance on the sheltered side, it hasn't really got a vestibule as such, but it'll do some kind of job of keeping the worst of the weather off your bags and things, if you want to stash them under there as well. Well, here's an indoor angle just to show you the kind of space that we're talking about here. It's not a lot. I can do this. I could lie here with my phone. I could edit my videos, I could plan tomorrow's route. That's about it really. If you're stealth camping, it's great. The low profile means you're just going to blend into anywhere that you pitch, especially if you've got the green fly like I have. So that's a nice point. I think that's about it really. The only other thing that I want to show you is the possible options for getting rid of the beast pole. I'm going to have to get out to do that, which is good because it is getting very, very hot. The first option you've got is obviously just find a stick wherever you're camping. Just because there's no trees doesn't mean there's going to be no sticks. And as long as you can get something that's within a few inches either way of the length of the megapole, then you'll be able to jiggle the angle around and make it work for you. If, like me though, you are a cyclist, then you have a better option. Just use the bike. I'm on 27.5 by 3 wheel set, and what you can see is that it's dead easy to just whip the front wheel off, roll that into place, and then guy it in as normal. There you go. I think that works really well. It saves you having to carry along that massive bulky extra bit of kit. You use something you've got with you anyway. You're very rarely going to go out cycling without your front wheel. So the only thing that you do have to bear in mind, my wheel isn't quite as tall as the megapole is long, so it does drop the hem a little bit, restricts your entry a little bit. You might have to duck and crawl more than you would, but I think that's a small price to pay really. And I think what we have to remember is that this is the B-side to this tent really. It's not doing what it was primarily designed to do. It's very admirably filling in a pinch. You know, if you were going away somewhere and you knew there was going to be no trees, if you were cycling through a desert, you wouldn't take this tent. It would be foolish. But if you are going cycling somewhere, you're going to Sweden, you know there's going to be trees, you're going to be sleeping suspended most nights, but occasionally you're going to want to pitch in a meadow, or maybe you're going to want to turn up at a proper campsite, have a proper shower, get a proper pitch on a proper piece of flat grass. Then this is great. It would be a really handy thing to have with you if you can make that extra little space sacrifice for the footprint. It works well, it's well made, it's sturdy, does exactly what you'd want it to do. It's all going to come down to a preference as to whether you can be bothered to carry it with you. I think that's all I have to say, really. It's getting really hot, so I'm going to go and dip my feet in the river. As I mentioned, I will be doing a review of the double bubble next, probably. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I still have to do a review of the sky pad, which you can probably see in there. That's quite interesting as well. Other than that, hopefully there'll be some ride videos coming soon, as I don't want this channel to all be gear reviews. We shall see, we shall see. It's been a strange year. Anyway, hope this was informative, entertaining, enjoyable, emotional. It's been a roller coaster, people. I'll see you next time. Bye.